Alright, takes place about a year ago, early to mid-November if I recall correctly. I had just started getting cold, will attempt to greentext. Work second shift, get off at 11 p.m. Get in my car, ready to go home. Turn key, no go, not even a turnover. Fucking battery, he's dead Jim. Coworker tries to jump me off, but the battery is pretty old at this point. Get a bit of noise from it, but no turnover, gonna need a new one. Home is 16 miles away, work is in the city, home practically in the sticks. Thankfully, my dad's house is just about a 2-mile walk, base dad. Start huffing it, shivering my ass off, about 20 minutes into my trek. It's about midnight, tried for quite a while to get my car going. Come across a guy waiting at a bus stop. Somehow, it did not click that the last of the buses have already run, no more until morning. Did not realize this until later. He stops me, asking, "Hey friend, would you happen to have a smoke to spare?" He is polite, clean-shaven, short black hair. Noticed he had brownish eyes, though an odd shade. I've got a knife on me, because street people, so I keep wary of him. I give him a smoke, and he starts making small talk. He seems pretty cool, so I decide to take a break and smoke a stogie with him and bullshit. Usual chit-chat, weather, recent movies we've seen, etc. Pretty friendly dude. Finish cigarette, hand him 3 more to save, and about to head on my way, and before he stops me again. "Hey, you seem like the type to smoke. Wanna light up? As thanks for the cigarettes." He pulls a decent-sized joint out of his pocket. Fuck yeah, .jpg, jackpot. He starts walking to an alley, between 2 closed businesses, carpet store, and something I don't remember. Despite his friendliness, always aware of alleys. Keep one hand near my knife just in case. We light up, pass it back and forth for a few minutes. Don't talk much, so we don't attract attention. He puts it out and hands me the roach. This guy is turning out to be a bro. Him, phew, got cotton mouth, need a drink. Half expected him to pull out a flask at this point, but turns towards me with a smirk and pushes me against the wall with one hand. At this point, I'm thinking he's about to give me a BJ. I'm not a homosexual and was about to tell him as much, but he spoke first. You will not remember this next part. He said it in a very firm tone, not threatening, but commanding. Felt like it echoed in my head, and felt kinda dizzy almost immediately. About to ship bricks, because he's staring at me dead in the eyes as he says this, and, surprise, his eyes are not brown. Motherfucking glowing red, holy shit. Pull out my knife, and he catches it with his other hand, stops it halfway from flipping out, and deliberately closes it. Bruce Lee speed.exe. His hand is now gripped around mine with the folded knife in it. Feels like a damn vice grip. Fight or flight mode is kicking in overtime. He has not broken eye contact, and those damn things are glowing like small red light bulbs. No color contacts I know of can do that. I'm a martial artist and pretty damn fast, but he caught my hand like I was moving through syrup. Obviously, I'm an X-File. It is sinking in that this dude is not fucking human. Come on man, you don't need to do that. No one is getting hurt tonight. He said this completely calm. Same tone we had been talking in just a few moments earlier. Still holding my fist, pulls my arm so it's in front of me. Then in the time it takes to blink, he's got his mouth on my forearm. Ow, fuck you, what the fuck? Stung like a bitch for not even half a second. Pain was gone before I finished saying fuck. At this point, it's now pretty fucking clear what sort of non-human I've come across. No fucking way, are you goddamn serious? I hear/feel a couple chuckles from him at that. I'm just sort of stunned at this point. Pinned too, but that's beside the point. He continues like this for maybe a minute, rocking his mouth back and forth a little every couple of moments or so. After maybe a minute or two, he pulls his mouth away from my forearm. Look at where he bit. Indentations on my skin from his top front 8 or so teeth, but not breaking the skin, except where the canines were. 2 small drops of blood. Wipe it off. Underneath those small drops, blood is already dried inside the actual punctures. Look back at him. He's still got that smirk on his face. Okay, put your knife back and you can remember again. That echo again, plus more dizziness. What the fuck was in that joint? I put the knife back into my back pocket, and as soon as I do, he speaks again. "Good stuff, huh?" he asks in his normal conversational tone. "Huh? The weed. Pretty good stuff, isn't it?" He pulls out one of the cigarettes I gave him and lights it up as he starts walking towards the bus stop again. My mind catches up to what just happened. I just got my blood drank by a fuck-mothering vampire, and he just tried to Jedi mind trick me into not remembering. Yeah, it was. I appreciate it, man. Telling myself, just fucking play along. If he knows I still remember, he might just try to disembowel me or something. Dying was not on my agenda for the night after all. Well, it's about time I head home. You take care, and again, thanks for the smokes. He starts walking away in the direction I came from. This was where I belatedly realized the oddness of him waiting at a bus stop. Have a good one, man. Trying real hard to sound normal and natural. I'd like to think I did a pretty good job. He looks back and gives me a slightly odd look. Oh fucking hell, he knows. Fight or flight about to kick into overdrive flight mode. He waves and turns back around after a moment. I turn and continue on my way. Entire walk to my dad's, I keep repeating to myself, what the actual fuck? Get to dad's place about 30 more minutes later. Kept checking my arm every few minutes on the way there. Mark's completely gone by the time I get there. No trace at all. Go inside. Dad's all, "Hey son, want a drink?" Didn't mention earlier. He was already drunk a few hours earlier, hence why he couldn't just pick me up. Tell him the walk and the cold wore me out. Just want to go to sleep. Stay up a while, just going over what had happened. Some amateur logical deduction is how I came to the conclusions that I state in this post. The bite did not get infected, or even irritated in the slightest, so I assume antiseptic. The other three properties should be self-explanatory from the story on how I came to conclude those. Don't ask me why his Jedi mind trick did not work, because I have no fucking clue. I can't even begin to guess the method in which it works in the first place, much less how to counter it. Maybe he fucked it up. I'm a property manager and a year postpartum, so I return to my company part-time. This is fun, because I get to float around to different apartment communities who need help and just help where needed. In September, I helped at a property about an hour away from my house. It's a bit of a drive, but a fairly small property with relatively no big problems, so easy money for the day. I'm covering for a manager out on vacation, and of course, it's the dreaded 6th of the month. This means I'm handing out late letters and making calls. Unfortunately, definitely not my favorite part of the job, but it is necessary. The one thing I hate about floating is that the residents don't really know me that well, and so I'm delivering late letters and calling, and they don't even know me. Again, not my favorite part of the job, but it has to be done. So here we go. I had about 10 late letters to deliver. All was going normal and fine. Some people answer the door and say, "Yep, I'll have it paid on such and such date, sorry." Another person did not answer, so I left info on the door, but they flipped me off as I was walking away. All pretty normal stuff that just comes with the job. I get down to about the 7th or 8th person. I walk up to this apartment and I can tell from the outside that the occupants have completely destroyed this home. I smell cigarettes, cat urine, and general mustiness before I even knocked. All the blinds were broken, blankets were up in the windows, all the works. I get up to the door, do my normal quick knock, waited about 5 seconds, and was ready to post the notice through the door. Right as I was folding it up and about to put it through the door partially swings open. A gentleman, wearing just his boxers and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, opens the door, but does not unlatch the security lock, so the door is not fully opened all the way. "What do you want?" he says, as he is giving me a death glare, but also looking me up and down inappropriately at the same time. I explain that I was just here to deliver the late letters, and that I would be on my way now. As I am explaining this, I notice he keeps looking over his shoulder, as if someone is standing behind him or next to him behind the door. I find this odd. It's as if someone is hiding from me, especially because this gentleman will not open the door all the way. I hear some whispering, and I am sure that he is communicating with someone. The gentleman in the doorway asked me to wait and says he has things in his apartment that he needs looked at. I explained that I was just there for the letter, but that he can send photos into the office and that I would get the work orders in. He begins complaining about our maintenance team and states that he really wants someone to take a look in person at this point. I'm feeling really uneasy. Typically, I would enter and help, no problem. But between the looks this guy was giving me and creepy who knows who behind the door, I'm just not feeling safe. At this point, I defer again, trying to make myself sound unimportant and say that I'm just a floating person. I can't do anything without manager approval when she gets back, so there is really no point. At this point, something catches my eye upstairs. I see a window blind move. I notice 2 additional guys upstairs who are both staring down at me. I'm so uneasy that I could be sick at this point. I tell the gentleman that I will not be entering without maintenance or the property manager present, due to it being an ongoing maintenance concern and there not being much I can personally do. He looks annoyed and finally slams the door in my face. I get back to the office and I grab the maintenance supervisor for the property to chat things over regarding this encounter. The maintenance supervisor explained to me that there used to be an old man who lived in that apartment, but then his son took over the lease after he died. He told me that he's noticed a lot of strange activity and individuals around that home since his dad died, but he has not personally noticed anything illegal yet, so he's just let it go. He explained they plan to make the move when the contract is over due to the condition of the home. Anyways, while I cannot prove something horrible was going to happen if I entered the premises, this is by far the creepiest encounter I have had in property management in 7 years. My brother, we'll call him Frank, has been doing urban exploration for years now and took me along with him to an abandoned school. Not to shit on the area, but the whole place looks straight out of Fallout 4 or any other apocalypse games. There are a lot of abandoned buildings, crime, and we'd have to watch our backs while we were there. I did a quick search on YouTube, and there have been some videos posted of this location already. We arrived by car, and he cleared up some rules. 1. The moment he says to leave, we get out of there immediately. 2. Take nothing when we're in there. 3. If it looks unsafe to walk on, don't try it in case you fall through. 4. Keep your mouth covered because black mold is dangerous. Without elaborating, he got out of the car with his GoPro at the ready, and we walked in through a side entrance. It was pretty dark, but with some of the windows broken, there was some light coming in. Seeing all the abandoned classrooms was pretty unnerving, not in a kids could easily come back here right now way. It was too dirty and damaged for that, but out of the norm. Everything had dirt on it, and we went into one room. He gestured for me to stop when we saw an old disgusting mattress laying on the floor in the corner. There was garbage around in a bucket that I think would have been used as a toilet. We were curious but careful. Together, we walked to the mattress, and I saw another video of some boys in Brazil, I think, who found a dead body. We didn't. We found an old blanket, some food, and a backpack filled with random things. We agreed it was probably a homeless person, but with the amount of dust, they haven't been here for a long time. But why would they leave their backpack here and not take it with them? We continued down and went into the library. It was dark down here, and we needed to rely on light to see. There were still some shelves filled with dust-covered books, except a single corner where there was a pile of burnt books that stained the walls with char. They could have used it during the winter to try to keep warm. Frank and I left until we came to another room when we heard shouting and people running through. He put his finger up, gesturing for me to be quiet, and we hid until the noise died down. We could not go back the same way we came, so we had to find a different way out. We went down the hallway and found a pile of cards. We thought they were just old student IDs that were left behind, but they were social security cards, driver's licenses, and other important information that people would not willingly leave behind. We looked at each other and found a pile of old clothing, different sizes, men's and women's clothing, bras and panties, and some pieces were covered in blood. Some were dark brown, and others were a lighter shade of red. Strangely, there were no shoes, and I found one thing that scared me. a baby onesie with a bloodstain on the chest along with a hole. I nearly started screaming, and he had to give me a shake to get me to shut up. He pointed for us to leave, and after saying this, he did not need to tell me twice. We opened the door, and seeing the sun outside felt like stepping out of hell. I tried to talk to him as we ran toward the car, getting in and driving away to escape. When he sped away, I saw a group of people watching us through the windows, and it made the experience all the more terrifying. We stopped at a gas station, and he called the police to tell them what we had seen. I was still shaking and looking out the windows to make sure we weren't being followed. Were they murder victims or people who were trafficked? I don't know. The whole place gives me the creeps, and now I don't want to go back somewhere dangerous like that again. Frank wants to go back to see if the evidence is still there. He tried looking up the names of some of the pieces of ID, but it was too water damaged or blurry to see the faces or names properly, so maybe there is a chance that they could be missing people. But if their ID is there, where are they? And who would leave that behind anyways? I want to start this by saying that I have been camping and hiking since I was a child. It was something that I really bonded over with my father. With that said, I am very familiar with wildlife. Bears, moose, bucks, and even a wolverine once. I would not recommend startling them. I can identify most animals by their sounds and tracks, but what I saw a few years ago in this national park up north still makes the hair stand up, and part of the reason is because I could not identify it. Once a year, I planned a solo trip for myself as a way to get back to nature and forget about everything else around me. It truly was one of the most relaxing times, and I always look forward to it. This was one of those trips. It was late August, so the nights were getting cooler, and I had planned for that. I packed my sleeping bag, thin layers, so I could wear multiple pieces at night, and the other minimal items that I needed. I packed light. I knew that I also did not get service in the mountains and trees, so I left my phone in the center console of my car. I also know that where I was staying was known for bear sightings, not to mention all the warning signs that they had everywhere, so I also did everything by the books to avoid encounters. I had a bear bag properly hung, kept my camp cleaned up, no food out in the open, and I even picked a spot that was pretty well open, with good visibility. Most of the trip was fine, up until that night I got ready for bed. The first sign that something was wrong came at around 2 or 3 a.m. I finally dozed off while I was reading, but I woke up to the sound of growling. At first, I was not startled by this. It wasn't unusual to hear animals out there, especially at night. I recognized one voice immediately, the distinctive sound of a mountain lion. That throaty snarl that sounded like it was coming from something much bigger than it actually is. But the other sound was what piqued my curiosity. I did not recognize it. It was almost like someone trying to imitate a growl, but it was wrong. It was like if you asked an AI to generate the sound of an animal that does not exist. It had this almost weird modulation to it, shifting pitches that should not go together. Sometimes it sounded human, then it would drop really low. So low that my tint seemed to vibrate. But being who I am, I wanted to investigate it. I needed to know what was making these foreign sounds. So, going against every horror movie rule and survival instinct I had, I went to look. I did not grab my headlamp or any other light, not wanting to draw attention to myself or spook the creature. I hoped the moon and reflection from the nearby stream would provide enough light. I got out of my tent and looked around, and spotted some movements on the other side of the stream. I walked closer to the stream, where I was able to make out that mountain lion, confirming what I had heard. It looked to be a decent-sized one too. Definitely an adult. Back arched, tail rigid, and ears flat. It was circling something the way that they do when they're sizing up or threatening something else. That's when I tried to focus on what it was going up against. The other creature was on all fours. At first, in the moonlight, I initially thought that it was a bear, but the proportions were all wrong. Its limbs were too long and thin. The joints bent at unnatural angles. Its head was massive compared to its body, but not in any way that made sense. How and why was its head so big? It also didn't seem to have a snout like a bear. It was flatter, like a human, or maybe a cat. I seemed to zone everything out around me, and was just focused on trying to figure out what this thing was. Then it stood up, throwing everything I thought and knew out the window. The only way I could describe it, it just unfolded, like someone doing origami in reverse. On two legs, it had to be almost 9 feet tall. Its arms hung down past its knees. The mountain lion, this common and huge predator that people feared, now just looked like a large house cat in comparison. But even with how large and unnatural the creature was, its movement was fluid and fast. I watched as it reached out and grabbed the lion's tail. The cat screamed, and that's what made me lose it. Right then, I knew that cat was going to die if something did not happen. I acted before anything and let out the loudest roar that I could muster. I know I probably sounded stupid, but I had to try something. Surprisingly, it worked. The creature's head snapped toward me so fast that it looked like it would have broken its neck. Even through the darkness, I caught a glimpse of its eyes. They reflected like an animal, but they were set in front of the face like a human's. At that moment, I felt sick, and the sense of dread engulfed me. I thought I was dead for sure. It made that wrong growling sound again, but this time, I'm not exaggerating here, it sounded distorted, like it was coming through some kind of cheap speaker. It dropped the mountain lion, which immediately bolted in the opposite direction through the trees. The creature stared at me for what felt like hours, but was probably just a few seconds. I was scared out of my mind, but I was also frozen in place. What was I supposed to do here? Anyways, then the creature dropped back on all fours and slowly walked deeper into the trees behind where it stood, all in that same unsettling fluidity. I spent the rest of the night not sleeping. I was not comfortable with sleeping or staying in a tent where I could not see every position around me. I ended up starting my fire again and just sat there, waiting for the first sign of daylight. As soon as it showed up, I packed up and hiked out of there in record time for myself. I've tried researching what it was that I saw, but no dice. I've gone down every cryptozoology rabbit hole that I could find. I asked my dad, and even a friend of the family that had been a park ranger for nearly 2 decades, but nothing was matching. The closest thing I found was some obscure legend about walkers, but I'm not even sure it fully fits those. Its long front legs or arms and its unnaturally large head was what threw me off. I still have no answers, and to be honest, I'm too afraid to go back. I've gone hiking in that same park before, but I cannot bring myself to stay there overnight. The mountain lion was obviously afraid of that thing, and that should tell you everything that you need to know about it. I would rather never have an encounter with that thing ever again. I have a cabin in buttfuck nowhere, Colorado that I decided to go up to for a couple of weeks. No internet, a single landline phone, state of the art for the 1980s. On Wednesday, April 10th, Colorado had a blizzard. It wasn't too bad in cities, but where I was it was horrible. That is all the background you need to know. Be sitting in my cabin stoking the fire during buttfuck blizzard, hanging out and watching some DVDs on a CRT older than Father Time himself, since I can't go outside. Constant howling of the wind. Turn up volume. Eventually get up to pass, so I pause movie. Wind is no longer howling. Didn't notice since TV was blasting. Find it strange since it's been doing it for 4 hours now. Thank fuck it's over. Take a few steps until I hear it. Click. Look around. Literally have never heard this clicking noise, and I've been up there for 5 months now. Click. Realize it's coming from outside. A branch probably snapped and hit my cabin, and is rocking back and forth or some shit. Fuck me. I'm not going outside. I can deal with the noise. Standing in bathroom. Begin to piss. Click. Annoyed. Finish up. Walk outside bathroom. Click. Realize there's no consistency in the clicking sound. Can't even expect it. It happens whenever. Sit back down and continue to watch the movie. Turn volume down since the wind is not howling. Clicking speeds up, multiple times a minute. Fuck it. I'll go take a nap or something on the other side of the cabin so I can't hear it. Walk into bedroom. Clicking begins. My bedroom is like 50 feet from where the TV is, but the click is just as loud. Like it's fucking following me. Try to ignore it and go to sleep. The inconsistency of the clicking breaks me. Throw on snow gear. Time to fuck up this branch for making me go outside. Walk the door and brace myself. Open it swiftly and feel old man winter fuck me up the ass. Quickly walk out and shut the door. Walk around cabin in blinding snow looking for a branch like an idiot. Make multiple laps and can't find the asshole. Assume it finally got loose and flew away. Go back inside. No clicking. Feels good, man. Go take that nap in peace. Fall into a deep slumber. Wake up at about 2 p.m. Click, 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 click. Walk to different rooms to try and escape it. Same clicking again. How the fuck is it following me throughout the cabin? Moment of realization. It's not coming from the sides of the cabin. It's coming from the roof. All rational thought has gone out the window from the sound of this fucking clicking. Snow gear and walk outside. Storm has calmed down for now, but it's still foggy. Can only see like 20 feet ahead of you. Walk around back and grab my ladder. Prop that shit up. This ends now. Begin to climb up ladder and stop. I could only hear the clicking inside, even over the howl of the wind. DEFCON 2. X warned me about this. Climb up high enough to be able to see the top of the roof. At the top, I see a pale figure. Heart stops. DEFCON 1. The figure is hunched over. It's sickly thin, and I can see its spine. It's angled where it can't see me, but I can see it. See it moving slightly. Look slightly down, and see it has, on hand, a fingernail that's probably 6 inches long, literally just tapping the roof. It stops. It slowly turns its head towards me. Black eyes and small slit for mouth. No facial features besides that. Almost like a crude drawing of a fucking alien. Begins to stand up. By the way, it's true. Your life does flash before your eyes when you think you're about to die. It stands up, staring at me. Probably 5 feet tall, give or take. Walks to the edge of roof of cabin, never taking its eyes off me. Hops down on the ground. I can see it land, and it slowly backs away into the fog, towards the trees. Never stops locking eyes with me. Petrified, probably did not move for 5 minutes, or at least felt like it, in the blistering cold, gripping a ladder. Snap out of it. Climb down ladder carefully. Don't even bother to take it down. Realize I'm in shock. Calmly walk around cabin and go inside. Walk around house and turn off lights and put out the fire. Grab keys and walk out. Don't bother grabbing anything else besides my wallet next to my keys. Storm has picked back up, but I literally am in some kind of trance. I don't even notice. Close door and don't bother locking it. Slowly walk to car, open the door, get in, start it, and swing around. Still in shock, I drive for hours until I reach a motel. Shock is wearing off, and I can feel myself ready to fucking go crazy. Quickly get a room, and now I start feeling adrenaline and rush up to my room. Open it and close it, and start freaking the fuck out over what I saw. For a few hours, I was freaking out in the hotel room, calmed down, and slept for about 16 hours. I drove back up to the cabin, fucking bolted inside and grabbed my phone, ran out and locked the door, and got in the truck and sped off. After reading all the stories on X, I was more surprised than anything that I didn't immediately flip out, but just went into shock for hours. I got home a few hours ago after driving for a while, and stopping multiple times to breathe and not flip out again. I think one thing people forget to mention is that fear comes in waves. I'd be driving and be totally okay. Then suddenly it would hit me and I would have to pull over and just sit in my car while I calm the fuck down and didn't drive like a paranoid schizo or something. Came home and made myself a drink and typed all this out. Don't know what I'm going to do with the cabin. Don't really care right now. Night, assholes. Thanks for listening. Oh, and no, I did not smell blood or copper. Grab some guns and friends and go cryptid hunting. I guess I'll respond to this one since I went to brush my teeth and just came back to turn off my computer. Fuck that, man. These people who say they try and hunt these creatures after seeing them are LARPing. I have zero desire to try and fuck with that abomination. I'm not about to risk my life or people I love on some fucking meme hunt for a creature I believe is intelligent. This isn't hunting a deer. It's not like a deer will come attack you while you're walking through the forest. It's like hunting another hunter who knows the woods better than you can, and obviously can climb, since he was on my cabin. Don't believe these fuckers on here who say they stayed and tried to kill it or whatever. No man would ever see something like that and think to stick around.